A seat in the last row isn't a verdict, it's a vantage point. From here you see everything the classroom does, hear everything they do, but you're not quite part of it. In the end, they might forget you're even there, but then you spring up from the shadows and say something that makes them listen. That's what happened to a quiet boy named Rafi. In a quiet town in Gujarat lived a 15-year-old boy named Rafi. Every morning he'd take a 3-kilometer walk to school. He kept to the last bench, his shirt was faded, his shoes were torn, he spoke little, and most days teachers looked past him. Classmates snickered and called him the invisible boy. No one knew the walk 3 kilometers to school, every morning. No one knew the nights working at a small tea stall to buy medicine for his sick mother and milk for his little sister. No one knew the secret before sleep. Rafi would study the sky through a cracked window and whisper, "One day I'll be a scientist, the world will know my name." But then one Monday, a new science teacher arrived. Her name was Miss Tara. She had kind eyes and a sharp mind. First day, first sweep of the room, she noticed the quiet boy at the back. So during roll call she walked to him. "What do you want to become?" she asked. Now, usually the answer to that question meant nothing. They were just words. But this time the question landed differently. It pricked at the laughter. It stalled the whispers. The boy lifted his head. "A scientist," he said softly. "I want to discover something big, something that changes the world." Well, the room went still. Miss Tara smiled. "Then, from today, you sit in the front row. Dreams like that need attention." Everything bent a few degrees toward hope that day. After class she handed him old science magazines, borrowed textbooks with dog-eared pages, and a list of experiments he could try with nothing but wires, coins, and a battery. "Curiosity first," she said. "Polish the questions. Answers will shine." And so Rafi sat in the front row. Every evening after school, he read everything he could find. The candlelight smudged the edges of the night as he solved problems, made notes and copied diagrams into a second-hand notebook. He asked questions that sounded too big for a boy with torn shoes. He stayed after school for extra lessons. He failed and tried again. He dreamed of clean energy, of light that cost almost nothing, of villages glowing after dark. Now the road did not open politely. Some nights there was no medicine for his mother. Some days the kitchen was empty. Some people said, "Poor boys don't become scientists." But Rafi said, "Let me prove that wrong." He worked hard, harder than anyone thought he could. Years turned like pages you don't want to tear. He studied for scholarships in the gaps between work and sleep. Rejections came thin letters with heavy weight, but he kept going. Finally, a university in the big city offered him a seat and a thin stipend, so he moved into a small hostel room with a narrow bed and a window too stubborn to close. Hunger visited often, but hope visited daily, and the lab became his home. He cleaned benches, learned to calibrate old equipment, saved coins to buy second-hand components, and built tiny prototypes that sometimes smoked, sometimes failed, and sometimes flickered with the first sparks of something new. And all the while he tracked every attempt in a notebook: idea, test, result, lesson. When he got stuck, he remembered Miss Tara's rule: polish the question until the answer has no choice but to appear. And slowly, surely, things began to change. He published papers, earned stipends, found mentors. One day, a professor with graying hair and kind eyes took him aside. "You should be doing bigger things," he said. "This place feels small for your talent." Together, they wrote grant proposals, collected data, and built an even larger prototype. One night, after many years of trials and false starts, the circuit on his table did something it had never done before. The output stayed stable. The efficiency nudged past the line that had always held him back. He ran the test again and again. The numbers held. It was small, but it was real. A compact, affordable step forward in clean energy. Data came first, then peer review, then a paper in a respected journal. A second paper followed. Emails arrived from scientists he had only ever read about. A local reporter printed a story. "Last bench boy lights the way." Invitations to present trickled in, then poured. One night, after many years of trials and false starts, the circuit on his table did something it had never done before. The output stayed stable. The efficiency nudged past the line that had always held him back. He ran the test again, and again the numbers held. It was small, but it was real. A compact, affordable step forward in clean energy. Data came first, then peer review, then a paper in a respected journal. A second paper followed. Emails arrived from scientists he had only ever read about. A local reporter printed a story. "Last bench boy lights the way." Invitations to present trickled in then poured. At a global science conference, Raffi walked onto a stage that looked like the inside of a dream. Bright lights, a wall of faces, cameras ready. He breathed, remembered the last bench, the tea shops, steam, the cracked window where he once whispered to the stars, and began. I was the boy at the back, the one with nothing but a big dream and a teacher who noticed. People laughed. Life was heavy. But I learned something. Your background is not your boundary. If you are poor, tired, or broken, dream anyway. Start small, work daily, even when no one claps, keep going. One day the same world that ignored you will stand up. The hall rose with him, not because his life had been easy, but because he had refused to make it smaller than it could be. After the conference, he sent a copy of his paper to Miss Terra with a note. You moved me to the front row long before the world did. She replied with a single line he kept folded in his wallet. The front row was always yours. You just had to sit in it. Maybe you are where Raffi once stood, last bench. Low voice, long walk. Maybe your phone is quiet and your pockets are light. Listen, you are not your shoes, your grades, or your postcode. You are your decisions. One honest hour today. One brave question. One more attempt after a no. If no one believes in you yet, borrow belief from your future self and get to work. We will send you the tools you need to get started. Moral, your starting line is not your ceiling. Let effort be your answer, discipline be your language, and persistence be the proof. If this story put even a little fire in you, protect it. Study one more page. Build one small prototype. Ask one better question. And if you'd like more stories like this, consider subscribing so we can keep walking this long, bright road together.